What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Solar Systems, where we help you understand the system your soul goes into. This is Moon Days with Michael. I'm your host, the Royal Archangel Michael, and I am cutting out the esoteric middleman and giving you the tools you need to connect yourself right to the source. Now, today is a very special day. Today is the day of the Royal Archangel Michael, or Aldebaran Day. This is the day when the sun conjuncts Aldebaran, which is the royal fixed star of Archangel Michael. So in honor of that, let's actually hop in, or in this case, fly up to talk about the spirit of Archangel Michael, as well as the energy that we're going to be feeling and the influences that it gave birth to. All right, everybody, so now that we're actually in the spot, let's actually start by talking about the spirit, or the being that is Archangel Michael, or Archangel Michael, which we'll get to in a little bit. So we all know about Archangel Michael, or Archangel Michael. This is the being who literally started the first war on Lucifer because didn't like what Lucifer was doing. That's a different video. This is the being who will cut off the head of a demon just because it looks at it funny. There's almost nothing that this being can't cut through with its sword. This demons, serpents, dragons, negative energy, magic squares, whatever it is, you do not want to be on the receiving side of this being's sword. Trust me, it ain't going to work out well for you. This being is war, protection, has a very strong sense of justice and doing what it thinks is right, or sees as right. So let's actually talk a little bit about what this being actually does, and then we'll hop into the influences that it created. So like we said, this is a being of protection and war. And don't think of it as like human wars where it's kind of stupid and no real point behind it. This is more of like esoteric war, where it's trying to protect or give beings the opportunity to actually experience the things that they want, rather than having experiences pushed on them, which is kind of how the war on Lucifer started. So how does this being relate into all the other archangels? Well, you can think of it as like Raphael being the regulator. It's going to see whether you are ready to be reborn, or if you need to go through some more trials to actually set yourself on the right path, where you can get to the point where you're ready to be reborn into a different life. Not necessarily a different life, but a different experience. So if Raphael thinks that you need to learn something more, then it's going to send you to Uriel, where Uriel is actually going to show you what you need to do in order for you to get to wherever you want to be. To make sure that you actually follow through with that is where Gabriel comes into play. Gabriel is going to make sure that you are doing what you need to do. And if you don't, you're going to feel it, because he's going to be watching. When all that is said and done, if you are ready to be reborn, then you will be sent to Archangel Michael. Now, Archangel Michael is a healer and also helps people be reborn. And what I mean by that is when they're ready to reincarnate into a different life, he's the one who kind of helps them figure out what path they're going to be doing, where they're going to be going, and helps them try to figure out the best experience for them. Now let's touch on that healing part. Now this isn't so much as like physical healing, or what can be in a certain way, or emotional healing. That's kind of like Raphael. What I mean by Archangel Michael as a healer, what I'm talking about is Archangel Michael will come down here to cut through any ideas, perspectives that aren't necessarily good, that aren't necessarily giving people the knowledge and the wisdom to create the best experience that they can in this life, and experience what they consciously want. So oftentimes this being will come down here and create structure from chaos. And what I mean by that is by getting rid of all the old, outdated, not so good ideas and perspectives, it makes room for new things to come in. And that is what I mean by healing. Alright, so now that we kind of got the whole what is Archangel Michael out of the way, let's actually talk about the energy and influences of it that we actually feel. Now, if the order of the archangels actually being created, it started with Gabriel, going to Uriel, Raphael, and then lastly Michael. But in our perspective, Michael actually came first. That's why the 90-degree space that Michael actually created is what we call the first house, second house, and third house. Because from our perspective, it came first. Now this being's energy is of spring, of birth, of giving birth to new ideas, experiences, thought patterns, perspectives. Now this being's energy can be seen as this reddish, pinkish kind of color. It's passionate, yet it's directed. It has intensity, yet it is also calming at the same time. So, as we just stated, the influence or the space that this being gave birth to was that of the first house, the second house, and the third house, which from those spaces came the constellation of Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. So, in your birth chart, if you have a planet in conjunction with Aldebaran, then that is going to lead you to actually experiencing 3 signs in that same planet, that being Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. Now let's actually talk about the spaces that this being created. The first house being that of your personality, your temperament, your body, your approach to life, and yourself. Now, the second house has to do with your material things, security, finances, your gains and losses, as well as your self-worth. Now, the third house has to do with learning, your sibling, your early childhood, your communication, basic details, things of that nature. Now, let's actually talk about the zodiac signs that came from these spaces, that being Aries from the first house, Taurus from the second house, and Gemini from the third house. Now, what you need to understand is, as above, so below. So in our case, from a physical perspective, we see it as Aries coming first, then Taurus, and Gemini being third. Whereas in the spiritual perspective, the yin realm, we see it as Gemini actually being the 10th, Taurus being the 11th, and Aries actually being the 12th. Now let's actually talk about it from both perspectives so we can understand how this correlates together. So if we're looking at it from a spiritual perspective, where the sign of Gemini is actually coming in at 10th, it has to do with communication, mutable air, being adaptable and changeable to different ways of thinking and communicating. In this case, a lot of other things have already been created. It's the 10th sign to come in. So it is able to be adaptable to the different ways of communication that have already come about from Aquarius, Libra, as well as how the other signs go about communicating. Taurus being the 11th sign in this case, it gets to look back and look at the things it created, the stability that came from it, the things that it has. Now with Aries being last, it can look around and see the things that were created, the vision that came from it. What is it actually looking at? Now from a human perspective or a physical perspective, where we're looking at it as Aries coming first, it is the cardinal fire, or creating a vision, right? Which makes sense for it to come first. It creates a vision that it wants to have come to fulfillment. With Taurus being next, it is looking at what it has. What tools can it use to actually move this vision on and actually have it come to be? And then Gemini is, okay, I have my vision, I know what I have, now I need to start communicating my vision so people can actually understand it and interact with it, and then have that vision evolve into becoming what I truly want it to be. Now, why have we talked about all this? Well, it's important to understand that the energy of Aldebaran, or Archangel Michael, is the combination of these three spaces, and from those spaces, those three signs. So oftentimes, if you're utilizing all of the energies at the same time, Aries, this is my vision. Taurus, this is what I have. Gemini, this is what I thought. So now here, if you've utilized all three of those energies, now by utilizing those three energies at the same time, you already have it, you already thought it, you got your vision, so now the only thing that's left is for you to actually do it. Now let's actually talk about what kind of planetary rulership we can kind of attach to the energy of Aldebaran. This is kind of like the energy of Mars and the Moon, where it's not only able to react to things and then attack it in whatever way it wants to, but is also able to not even have to react at all and just feel motivated to go and do something. As we said before, you already thought it, you already have it, so you might as well just do it. Which is where that Martian type of energy comes into play. Now, if you're actually looking to see if you have Aldebaran placed in a planet in your birth chart, what you want to look for is any planet within the sign of Gemini, where right at now, if you were born today, it'd be around 10 degrees Gemini, but if you were born, say, like 20 years ago, it would be around like 916, 920-ish degrees of Gemini. Because you have to remember the fixed stars move very slowly, about 1 degree every 72 years. Now, if you're on the outskirts of that by, say, a degree, so for example, if it's in 10 degrees Gemini, if you have a planet placed in 9 degrees Gemini or 11 degrees Gemini, it's not necessarily placed in Aldebaran, but it's still carrying energy from that star. If you really want to say that you have a conjunction with Aldebaran, it kind of really needs to be smack dab on it. However, because the star is so large and so far away, within 2 degrees, you are going to be feeling its influences. Anyways, guys, to sum it all up, the spirit of Archangel Michael has to do with war, protection, justice, and more so allowing spirits to actually create and experience their own visions. This is a being you can call upon to cut off the head of any freaking demon you want. Just remember not to get on the receiving side of that sword. And we're actually thinking about the energy that Aldebaran carries. We're talking about the first house, the second house, and the third house, which is the spaces that Archangel Michael gave birth to. And the signs coming from those spaces are Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. So keep that in mind when you're trying to understand and feel the influences that this star and this being will actually bring about. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you guys want to stay in touch with the daily alignments, we post those every day on our Instagram, so make sure you follow us down below. And let us know in the comments what you guys want to see. What topics do you guys want us to talk about? We'd really love to hear from you guys, so make sure you guys write us a comment down below. Anyways, that's all I got for right now. I'll see you guys soon, and make sure you fly high, y'all.